In this video, we'll go through the process of configuring push notifications in your app. The process of setting up push notifications is a multi-step process that can take some time to complete. But once configured, you'll be able to start sending push notifications to all of your app's users. Before we start, I should mention that to use push notifications, you'll need to already have a Google Firebase account and an Apple developer account. In this video, we won't be showing you how to create these accounts, but if you don't already have them yet, pause the video and go ahead and sign up for those now. When we have our accounts ready, we can start configuring push notifications. Our first step will be to activate the push notification backend service in Akuro. This is done by going to the push notifications page found in the backend services folder and then clicking on the activate button. Once the service is activated, we can see that we'll need to configure the service with some additional settings, and to be able to configure these settings, we'll first need to set up push notifications over at Google and generate some certificates over at Apple. Therefore, let us begin by jumping over to Google Firebase, which is a service from Google to manage mobile apps. To be able to send push notifications to our Android users, we will use Google Firebase. Google Firebase can be found at firebase.google.com, and once signed into their console, we'll need to create a new project. I'll name this project Push Demo and set my region to Sweden, since that's where we're located. When the project is created, I need to get the server key and the sender ID that will be used to configure the push notification service in Akuro. To get these values, I'll click on the cog icon and then select Project Settings. Finally, I'll go to the Cloud Messaging tab, and here I'll be able to find my keys. First, I'll copy the server key and then jump back to the Akuro App Studio and paste this value into the Android sender key. Then I'll do the same for the sender ID. By doing this, we've successfully configured push notifications for Android. Great work! Let's go ahead and save the settings and close this window. Now, it's time to generate the certificate from Apple that will allow us to send push notifications to iOS users. To generate a certificate, we'll first need to generate a certificate request that we'll upload to Apple. Generating a certificate request is done by opening the Release Management section of the Akuro App Studio, navigate to the New Build tab, and then open up the iOS tab. Click on Add Certificate to generate a certificate request. I'll enter my values, and then when I'm done, I'll click on Generate. Automatically, the certificate request will be downloaded to my computer. When that's done, we can head over to the Apple Developer Portal. Here, we'll open up the Certificates, Identifiers, and Profiles section. As we haven't configured an app ID for our app yet, we'll first need to do this. An app ID is an entity that will identify our app at Apple, and one app ID must be generated for every app that we're developing for iOS. The app ID you create for your app has to be configured with a bundle ID that matches the app identifier for your app set in the Akuro App Studio. Therefore, let's head back to the Akuro App Studio to check the app identifier for this app. You'll find your app identifier under the Info tab. Copy the value of the identifier and head back to Apple Developer. Now that we know our identifier, we can create our app ID. Go to App IDs and click on the plus button. Now give your app ID a name. For this video, I'll choose Push Demo. Under Bundle ID, enter the value we copied earlier from the Akuro App Studio. Before we save our app ID, we should first select that this app will use push notifications. Now, with the app ID generated, we can finally generate our certificate. Click on All Certificates and then on the plus button again. Select Apple Push Notification Service SSL as the type of certificate and then click Next to continue. Now select your newly created app ID and click Continue again. As we already have a certificate request, we can simply click Continue one more time. Now, it's finally time to use the certificate request we created earlier. Click on Choose File and select the certificate request file from your computer. When done, click on Continue to generate the certificate. Now click on the Download button to download your certificate. With that done, we can now leave the Apple Developer Portal and head back to the Akuro App Studio to finalize our certificate and configure our push notification service. Now go ahead and go to the iOS tab again, and once there, click Add Certificate. This will finalize the certificate and add it to Akuro. I'll need to first select the newly generated certificate, then give the certificate a name, and finally a password. When ready, I can click on the Finish button to finalize the certificate. Finally, we'll need to make our new certificate unlocked to be used by the push notification service. Unlocking the certificate is done by typing in my certificate password and clicking on Unlock. With all of the above done, we're now ready to configure the push notification service with this certificate. Head back to Development and open the push notification settings. Now, simply select the certificate for both iOS development and iOS production and click on Save. With that done, we've configured the push notification service and are ready to start setting up push notification templates, which will allow us to finally send push notifications out to our users. To see how this is done, let's move on to the next video, Push Notifications Part 2.